Hi, welcome back to my channel, Reflections Out Loud, for women who think and feel life deeply. Let's play a word association game. So I'm going to ask you a word and you've got to think of the first word that comes to your mind, and remember that. You can jot it down in the comments if you like. You ready to play? Let's go. I've got a list here. Travel, home, family, play, work, life, death. Let's just pause there. So, what did you say for death? What came up for you? Could you answer it okay? Did it make you feel sad? Did it make you think, I don't want to talk about this? I'm really interested to know that very last one, death. What you think of it? What's the reflection? What's the instinct that you think about when you think about death? Because I want to talk about this topic today. I told you I'm talking about deep things because I don't know why, especially in England, where I'm from, we don't talk about death. We think it's morbid. It's such a taboo subject. And I'm so passionate about turning that on its head a bit. Now, I'm not saying don't get sad. I'm not saying talk about death all the time. But I'm saying not shy away from it. And it will actually help us and those around us grieve and be with death if we can talk about it a bit more. So that's why I'm talking about it today. And I'm going to tell you why what my thoughts are on it and why I think it shouldn't be such a taboo subject. Before I get into that though, I want to put some context into this and tell you why it's so passionate for me. And how I know that it can be a morbid subject for some people, for a lot of people. So my history about this subject, if you don't know already, I do talk about it a lot, is 3 out of 4 of mine and my husband's parents have died. 60, 63 and 65. They were when they died. 2 of them were out of the blue. And I've done my grieving. I still am grieving. So I kind of know a bit about this subject. And I also know a bit about how people act around it, which is why I'm talking about it. So I'm going to talk about my dad. So my dad wasn't the one that went suddenly. It was still quite sudden as far as cancer goes. It was mesothelioma, which is an asbestos-related lung cancer. From diagnosis to the end was 7 months. So we had some time. And at the time, I was working, I'd only been in the job 2 years as a physiotherapist. And I was in a community hospital. And 1 day a week I spent in palliative care, around people that are dying. There's no more treatment left for them. And at this time, my dad got his diagnosis in March. I'm filming this in March as well, that's ironic. He got his diagnosis in March and he died in October. Now, my dad, when it comes to talking about death, was one of these people who thought it was morbid. Anytime we talked about it, I don't know, general chit-chat about life and death and what happens after death, or, I'd never met my dad's dad. He died before I was born. And my nana, his mum, he never visited the grave or anything. And he always said, I don't need to. She's in my heart. I don't need to go to the grave. That was the kind of guy he was. So anytime we talked about life after death or whatever, he'd say, oh, don't talk about that, so morbid. So he was slightly averted to the topic, aversion to the topic, let's say. So in these 7 months, we knew we had to have this conversation. And it just so happened, our synchronistic events happen, right? It just so happened that while I was in palliative care one week, they were handing out these leaflets, Dying Matters. And I thought, ooh, here might be a way in. So I took that leaflet home and I drove down the motorway like I did every weekend to see him in those final months. And I took that leaflet with me. And one day I opened up the conversation. And I said, oh, Dad, look, can I show you something I got from work? It's this leaflet. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he looked at it. And you could see his heart drop. And I could see he was battling with his head. I could see, so this is the early days, and I could see the torment, you know, the battle in his head. I don't want to talk about this. I'm somewhat in denial. Like, yes, I've been given this diagnosis and prognosis, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about it. I want to push it away as if it's not happening. I could see that going on inside him. But I could also see inside him that he knew he needed to have this conversation with us. He needed to know, we needed to know, he knew that we needed to know that we needed to talk about wills. We needed to talk about his funeral. We needed to talk about who he wanted in the funeral, which was interesting because there's some people he doesn't talk about and it's like talked to in his later years and it's like, do you want them at the funeral? And he's like, I'm not bothered, I'm not going to be there. That was his answer to that one. So I saw that battle going on in his head and the practical side of him agreed and acknowledged that it needed to happen. And so we had that conversation. We never visited it again. That was it. That one conversation was done and dusted. And we knew the practical side of what was to come and how he wanted it all to happen, his funeral and everything. And that was peace of mind for us to know that we had that to go off. And he knew that was good for us. And then we could all just let it go and be with him, be the daughter around him, be the wife around him, be the son around him. So I know my dad's not the only one that thinks like this. And probably, I don't know, I could say that I used to be like that, but I don't think I was. I think because I'm such a deep thinker and because I was following Buddhist principles, and prior to my dad dying in 2012, I started learning mindfulness and going to meditation groups for 2 years prior to that, every week. So, and the Buddhist philosophy is always about our precious life and living our precious life. And to do that, they are okay with death. So I'm going to come on to that a bit more at the end. So this is why I feel, having had the experience of close people dying and the way people respond around death, that especially in England, in the UK, it's, you know, something that has come about, are death cafes. And again, people are like, oh, death cafe. What do you want to go to a cafe for and all congregate together and talk about death? Because it helps. Because it helps whether you're going through it, whether you've been through it, or even if you haven't, because you know what, you're gonna. So talking about death and making it less taboo is really high up there for me. I'm an advocate for it, I really am. And here's why. So let me look on my list. Firstly, I want to think about the languages. So back to the word association. What was your word? What do you think? What's your language around death? Something I noticed, I was doing my mindfulness course and I was telling my story about death. There was a really good example of when I used mindfulness in the middle of a massive grief wave. And I used my mindfulness and I wanted to tell that story in the training that I was having. And I'm trying to think now before recording this as to which way around I said it. I think I said it, my mum had passed. Now, with all my mindfulness and Buddhist philosophy stuff, I'm aware that words we use can trigger people, but that's their problem. If it's said with good intent, it's not meant to trigger someone or upset somebody, but it's taken that way. That's out of your control, right? And in this training, when I used the words, I think I did it this way around, passed on, there was, maybe I said died. I think I might have said it died, because there was a priest in the group, and he corrected me at the end. He said, you might want to say passed on instead of died, because people get offended by the word died. And I changed it in the talk so I wouldn't offend people, but he pulled me up on it, and I was like, right. So that's the point I'm making. The language we use. Passed on. Passed on? Well, that opens a can of worms, doesn't it? Passed on where the fact is they've died. That's the language, that's the words, and how we respond to that, that's the point I'm making. How we respond to the word died. And, I know it's difficult to say it the first time. I've lost my mum. My mum's gone. My mum's passed on, passed over. Like, she's died. And the first time you actually say died is a big deal, I think. And then I think because that's such a strong word, we end up being stronger in it, I think. So the point I'm making here is language. Language is a factor in the way we go about death, think about death, talk about death. Language is a factor too. At the end of the day, you use your own words, but just be curious maybe as to why you're using one word over another. And then you understand your grief and what you need in the moment and ask for it. Again, a big advocate for this. So if we can talk about death, if we can get close with death, feel it. What's happening in you around death? Death in general, your death, your impending death, those around you, those that have died. Understand what's going on for you around it. So what I'm talking about here is, particularly if you're grieving, understand what's going on with you. Get close to it. Get close to the feelings. Get close to what's happening. And the reason why I say this is because then you can understand what you need in the moment. And I say in the moment because every day is different. Every minute, every hour is different when you're grieving, especially in the early days. So if you understand what's going on in you in the moment, you are then able to ask for what you need to those around you. Do you want to talk about it? Do you not want to talk about it? Do you want someone to just hold space for you? Do you just want someone to give you a hug? Do you just want to go for a walk with someone? Or not? You want to tell them you want to be on your own? What is it you need in the moment? And let them know. And that's a way of talking about death. Because the next one is from the other perspective. So the next one I want to talk about is when someone around you is grieving. Oh, this is big, because when we don't talk about death, when death is a taboo subject, and someone around you, someone close to you is grieving, and you've not experienced it yourself, let's take that for example, you don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. And maybe in the time up to the death for that person you're around and you're doing all the practical things, maybe you're there up until the funeral, again doing practical things. And then what? Because it doesn't end there for the one grieving, right? Days, weeks, months, years later, they're still grieving. And it's almost like these people around don't know what to say anymore. It's almost like after funeral, that's it, that's the closure. Life moves on. And we're scared. As that other person, we're scared. We don't know what to say. And I thought I understood this, having been through what I did. So I get it when you haven't been through it, because I did in a way. I've had friends that have had miscarriages. And so that's death, right? But I've not experienced that. And I don't pretend to know what anyone would feel going through it. And so when I've had people close to me go through miscarriages, I have got stuck with my words. I've got stuck with what to say and do, even though I'm a big advocate for death and talking about death and all this. You're in shock for that person. You're in empathy for that person. You're empathising for that person. So I would just say, for that other person, ask. Just ask. And keep asking. Not every day, don't bug them. Even just a text and just to say, thinking of you, on anniversaries or hard days, special occasions, the bittersweet, I call it. Things like Mother's Day. Mother's Day is coming up in the UK this week. When Mother's Day comes, when birthdays come, when Christmas comes, all these things. Just a little text to say, thinking of you today. Don't have to say what it is. They'll know and they'll appreciate that. And it allows them to open up. If they want to say, could you come, I'm really struggling actually with it all today. Can you come round and have a brew with me and have a hug, So these last two are big, right? Not to live in fear. Don't be in fear of death. So you can really live life. That's massive. If we live in fear of death to the point where we can't even talk about it, then we're not truly living life. We're just in fear the whole time. We're really not living life. Just imagine for a second that we didn't live in fear of death. And because all our problems, all our suffering, as the Buddhists would say, come back to death, right? What if I lose my job? What if I lose my house? What if I can't do this, can't do that? It ends up, you're on the streets and you're inevitably going to die. That's the catastrophizing thoughts. That's where they're going to end up. If you follow the trail from all your catastrophizing thoughts, that's generally where it ends up. And it's a done thing. Like, it's our body is meant to do that. It's meant to keep us safe. It's our ego. It's our survival mechanism. It's there for a reason. So I'm not saying drop it completely. Yes, have it. But when it's to the point of taking over and you're really not living life, then we've got to drop the fear around death. That's what I think. And lastly, the last big one, again, sort of a Buddhist philosophy, is the only guarantee in life is death. The only guarantee in life is death. So we can't pretend it's not going to happen to us or those around us. The thing is, we just don't know when. So again, like the Buddhists say, life is precious. Live it. Don't be in fear of it. Accept that it's going to happen. Acceptance. And then you can truly live life. So my takeaway from this is to really just start opening up a little bit. Be uncomfortable in the conversations around it, because it is at first. Notice the difficult, uncomfortable in other people too. And you don't have to push. You don't have to push people, but you can just gently be curious, inquire, just start having conversations about death so you can really live life. Let's drop the taboo and let's talk more about death. I'd love to know your thoughts about this in the comments. It's a real big passion one for me. Real advocate for talking more about death and dropping the taboo. What are your thoughts? And I'd love to know your associated word with death as well. Drop that in too. Thanks for watching. Much love. Bye for now.